Just to let you know that we're from now on recording the meeting. I see Ethiopia coming in. Warm welcome to everybody for this opening webinar on WASH system strengthening for USAID Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance implementing partners. So we're going to be starting shortly. We're just letting everybody pour in at the moment. So please, if you've joined this meeting, you feel welcome to leave some words of welcome in the chat. The chat's open, being monitored by several course facilitators. So we're going to be starting shortly. So I think we're up to 101 participants at the moment. So please mute yourself because it won't be possible. We're going to have lots of chances for interaction together. And we're also going to be jumping into breakout groups, but then until then, please mute yourself and share anything in the chat. So I see we're up to 104 participants. So I think it's time to start. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Jeske Vroeve. I work for IRC and I'm going to be leading you through this webinar today. It's the opening webinar. And we're also going to have a closing one. The webinar is going to last around 90 minutes. And it's on WASH system strengthening for USAID Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance implementing partners. We're looking forward to an interactive session today. Looking forward to hearing your points of view as well. So please, you're always welcome to leave any questions or any comments in the chat. There's also going to be group work and other possibilities for you to share your insights and feedback. We'll be recording this webinar. Just that you know, it's also going to be stored as part of the online course. And we have several course facilitators that are going to be introducing you today. So let's start. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the agenda for this webinar of 90 minutes. First, please go back 2 slides. One more. So what's the agenda for today's webinar of 90 minutes? First, we're going to start off with some words of welcome and introductions. I'll be sharing with you the course objectives and a course outline. We're going to be talking a lot about the WASH system. What do we actually mean with that? How is it actually relevant for you? We're going to have discussions on that as well. And then we're going to end up with next steps. So next slide, please. So first, I would like to hand over the floor to Nicole Weber, who is the director of ProWASH.
Thanks so much, and it's so exciting to see 110 participants on the line today. Thanks so much for showing your interest in this training opportunity. We are really excited to be working with Water for People and IRC WASH over the next 10 days to deliver this course. In addition, we will be offering another training in French in September. So we're hoping to have feedback from you and for you to help get the word out to others who might be interested in this training, particularly for our Francophone partners. So next slide, please. Many of you I already have seen on other trainings or webinars, and even some of you in person when we did in-person trainings a few years ago. ProWASH is an initiative that's funded by USAID BHA and led by Save the Children. We aim to provide support to implementing partners in order to strengthen the quality of WASH interventions through capacity strengthening, knowledge sharing, and applied WASH research opportunities. Next slide. This training is part of a broader package of capacity strengthening, learning, and operational research activities that we work and do in partnership with other USAID funded projects. So you might be familiar with IDEAL, SCALE, REAL, IMPAL, Program Cycle and Support, Advancing Nutrition. We all work very closely together to support BHA partners, with ProWASH's focus being specifically on WASH support, which is why we are working to offer you this training today. Next slide. I'd like to encourage you to stay engaged with us even after this training, and there are many different ways you can be involved. We have applied research activities. So we've completed research with the Shahardo Rifsa in Bangladesh on flood-prone solutions for sanitation. We have applied research award that's ongoing in the Sahel around sanitation markets and human-centered design. And we have 2 new studies starting in Kenya and Madagascar on pathogen pathways. We also have 2 more applied research awards that we will be launching soon, one on multiple use water systems and another one on barriers to hand washing. And so all of these applied research awards are an opportunity for ProWash to work with you to bring applied research awards and information to a wide audience of food security practitioners. We also have different trainings and technical guides, social and behavior change for WASH, market-based sanitation. We just developed an accessible guide to African groundwater, human-centered design for sanitation, and we're developing a water quality monitoring package. So in addition to this WASH system strengthening course, if any of these topics interest you, we welcome you to reach out to us. And then finally, we do a lot around webinars and knowledge sharing. We have a webinar series coming up on operations and maintenance, on market-based programming and emergency WASH. And we've had several recent webinars around WASH, nutrition, and child growth, on adapting to COVID-19, and so forth. And so I'll drop our link to our website in the box in a few minutes and encourage you to check out our different activities. Next slide. So to stay engaged with ProWash after this training, we will have resources on our website. You can also write to us directly to request one-on-one support. And I also want to encourage you, if you have time, to attend our webinar this Thursday, which is early warning for food security using satellite-based crop and rangeland monitoring system. Check out our website for more resources. And again, I just want to express my thanks and appreciation to Water for People and IRC WASH for partnering with us on this exciting opportunity for WASH system strengthening. It really is an opportunity for us to expand the type of support we can provide to BHA partners. Thank you.
So thanks a lot for this warm words of welcome. We're also really looking forward to engaging with you on WASH system strengthening. What does it mean? How is it relevant? How can you start to apply it? We have a wide group of course facilitators for this course. First, let me introduce Brenda Agiro. She works for Water for People. Also, Laura Burns will be joining you shortly, is on the line. She also works for Water for People. We have Samantha Wind, who's going to help us out in a moment with getting to know each other better. And we also have Ellen Walter of IRC, and I'm Jeske Vroeve, and I also work for IRC. So this is a joint effort by Water for People and IRC. And we look forward to meeting you all today. But first, let's get to know each other. In the chat, we're going to be dropping a link to joining us on Mentimeter, which is a program that allows us to ask some questions to get to know each other. You can go to www.menti.com and use the access code which you see on the screen here, which is 39466547. So please go to Mentimeter, www.menti.com, and use the code, which is also going to be in the chat, 39466549, so we can get to know each other better. And if you have any difficulty, let us know. The chat's being monitored by the course facilitators that I just introduced.
Can you put the code in the chat? I somehow can't see it clearly.
Okay, no problem. The code's, I think, being put in the chat right now. And I'll mention the code once again, 39466547. If you have any problems, let us know. So I think we can go to the first question. So please go to Mentimeter, www.menti.com, and use the code 39466547. When you're in there, the first question is, what is your main sector of focus? What is your main area of interest? What do you work mostly on? What's your expertise? because as we just saw in the beginning, lots of people are joining from lots of different countries. I see somebody now from Zimbabwe, I've seen Bangladesh, I've seen UK, and we have the feeling that there's lots of different expertise in the room, which will make discussions even more interesting today. So I see WASH, I see, so words are going to be capacity building, great, that's the same as us. Sanitation, food security, very interesting. Shelter and settlement, water communication, learning. I see drainage, wastewater management. WASH is still the most mostly put in. Safe latrines, civil engineering, humanitarian assistance. So really a wide spectrum of expertises. I see, let's see, safe water policy. So really coming from advocacy, really coming from all angles of water and sanitation service delivery, and also the coming from other angles. Resource mobilization. I see that everybody's able to add. Great. GIS, very interesting also. Food security again, public health. Social and behavior change. Let's see. So we really, as we thought, we'll have many different people with many different people in the room with many different expertise coming from lots of different regions. So the idea of this course is as well to bring everybody together so we can discuss and learn more about what do we mean with WASH system strength, and why do we think, why is it important, and how could it actually be applicable to the different contexts and use. And it will be an interesting discussion with so many people coming from also conservation backgrounds. So how will this be applicable is part of our group work and also part of the course. So let's move to the next sector, next question. Really interesting to see so many different forms of expertise. A question to everybody as well is, have you ever participated in an online course before? Or is this actually really a new thing for you? Because this course will consist of these two opening webinars, an online course on the WASH Systems Academy, and office hour support. So it will be interesting to see if you're familiar with doing online courses, or if this is new to you. So I see it ticking. At the moment, the majority has experience with online courses. At the moment, 4 people have said, no, I don't have any experience. If you're not sure, that's okay as well. Part of this training, you're going to be taking an online course on the WASH Systems Academy, which is self-paced, self-guided. And our question is, have you ever done a form of an online course before? And I see that the majority of people are saying yes, I have. If I look at the moment, we have 127 participants in our webinar, and I see that we now have over 61 answers. So I'm just going to give you time to answer, because that means over half have answered. 130 participants we have at the moment on this call. So, but I think it shows a very clear picture. This audience, you have participated in online courses before. That's great. For those of you who haven't, we'll be taking you through. We also have office support built in. So if there's any questions, you can always reach out to us. And I'll explain in this webinar as well how it will all work and how to connect with us if you have any problems or questions. But nice to see that for so many people. And it will also be interesting for you to then also give us feedback on where we could learn on online courses as well. So thank you for that. So next question. So now we know lots of different expertise in the room and people with experience of online courses. So what are you most excited about to learn during this course? Why did you sign up? Why are you interested? What would you like to learn? And welcome as well from Sudan. Just see somebody joining us. For now up to 130 participants. So if you've just joined, please join us as well next to this platform on www.menti.com and use the access code 394665 1-800-848-47 to join us on Mentimeter to share your insights and your experiences, and also for us to get to know you a bit better. So the question is, what are you most excited to learn about during this course? So I see WASH systems, I see practical application related to my experience, SABC. Let's see, I see monitoring and evaluation, social behavior change. So the course indeed is on WASH system strengthening. We're going to talk a lot about practical application of this, also in this webinar. I see WASH language, yes. The course also has a glossary built into it, which will help you as well get very familiar with this WASH systems, with this WASH language that we're using. I see systems thinking. Indeed, we'll also will explain what system thinking means. As part of these webinars, but also as part of the online course. Let's see what I see. Social behavior change. So behavior change, of course, is also extremely important part of system strengthening, because it's not just about access, it's also about having behaviors around this. Improving skills, great. Field examples. So yeah, in these webinars and also in the course, we'll be sharing lots of examples from different places: Myanmar, DRC, Central African Republic, Ghana, Uganda, Asia. There's an example from Cambodia in the course. So there's all these different examples from different places. Bangladesh, there's an example from Bangladesh in the course as well. So you'll be, there's many different examples from really a global perspective in the course. Let's see if, so WASH systems and WASH sustainability. So it's really interesting to see WASH sustainability, because indeed that's really one of the main entry points for starting to develop system strengthening, is this issue that we're all seeing and recognizing with sustainability and how to tackle it, which we're going to be talking more about today as well. So thanks for this, and hopefully through this course we'll be addressing most of them. If you have any questions, you can always post them in the chat. Also join us for office support, and the course itself will have lots of interactiveness too, where we can discuss these things, and you can ask any questions as well. And next, and it's I also see that people want to understand this cross-cutting issues. Yes, that's indeed what system thinking is all about, is this holistic, wider view of what's happening and what we're seeing in reality and how to better deal with it. Next question, please. Really interesting insights for us to get to know you better. So what are these course objectives? Next slide, please. So the course objective is, after this training, to know what WASH system strengthening approach actually means, why WASH system strengthening is important, and what the relevance is of WASH system strengthening for resilience and food security activities. Because as we saw as well, a lot of people are coming from the humanitarian assistance of food security. So what is this? How is this applicable in fragile context and in the contexts that you're working in? And to come out with having some ideas for entry points for applying or scaling up WASH system strengthening within your programs. So that's really the objective of this course. So I'd like to hand over now to Laura Burns of Water for People to say, what do we actually mean with the WASH system?
Thanks, Jessica, and thank you all for being here today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So as Jessica mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we mean when we say WASH system, since the whole course that we're offering is based on a WASH system. Next slide, please. So only a strong system can deliver a water or sanitation service. The infrastructure, pipes, pumps, taps, and toilets alone are not delivering a service. It's the whole system that is delivering a service. And what we see, if we go to the next slide, is that because we're not, and if you press enter again, because we're not focusing on these systems as much as we should be, over 2 billion people lack access to safe water. And if you press enter again, 4.5 billion people are without safe sanitation. And next slide. It means that as many as 40% of services do not function as they should. So there's insufficient or unsafe water and sanitation services. or perhaps infrastructure is constructed and it breaks down after a few years after construction because the system has not been put into place to sustain services. So next slide. These challenges are only exacerbated by climate change, population growth, and increased water demand, adding to the problem of access to sustainable services. If we go to the next slide, that means that there's a failure of, and the important thing to note is that the failure of infrastructure should never mean the failure of service. So just because infrastructure breaks down, there should be a whole strong system in place to repair that infrastructure, maintaining service for years to come. And we'll talk more about that throughout the online course, which is also found, a specific emphasis on this is found in session 2. So what do we mean when we say strong systems? And I want to note here that when we're talking about systems throughout the course, we're talking about the entire environment in which we're working. We're not talking about a water system or a sanitation system. That's the infrastructure. We're talking beyond infrastructure to talk about all of the different, and if we go to the next slide, actors and factors that deliver WASH services. So when we're talking about actors, we're talking about all the different people and institutions in place to provide services. And when we're talking about factors, we're talking about specific elements that support the delivery of WASH services. So if we go to the next slide. This slide, you'll see a lot during the course, and it's fundamental to system strengthening and the WASH system. The first thing I want to highlight is that the WASH system, so water, sanitation, and hygiene system, does not exist alone. It's connected to all these different systems. So we've highlighted on this slide the education system, the health system, but we could also have, the food security system, nutrition systems, humanitarian assistance systems. So WASH sits within all of these other systems. And within the WASH system, we see 9 fundamental, what we call building blocks of sustainable systems. So we have found that with most successful provision of WASH services, that these 9 building blocks are in place. And I'll briefly go through them. You'll see a lot more of these building blocks throughout the next week in your course. The first is policy and legislation. So thinking about what kind of sector policies or legal frameworks, norms, and standards are set in place by the government or other institutions. That leads me to the next building block, which is in fact institutions. And that is looking at the coordination, the roles and responsibilities and how they're assigned, the capacity of different actors and the different sector mechanisms in place to connect those institutions. Then of course, perhaps the one most of us are most familiar with is infrastructure. And that's the actual taps, that's the toilets, and it's the development and maintenance of that infrastructure and thinking about project cycles and asset management and who's responsible for the management of that infrastructure. Then monitoring is another key building block so that we can understand the level of service that infrastructure and systems are providing. It is the framework and the routine that is set in place to monitor systems. Then we look at how strong the planning building block is, as that is essential. And that's really looking at the planning and budgeting for WASH services and the capacity of institutions to plan and budget. Another key building block is finance. This is looking at the flows of money. It's looking at the responsibilities for who is funding different aspects of the WASH system. It's clear frameworks for life cycle costing and the clear identification of the source of funding. Regulation and accountability is another key building block. This is looking at the regulatory framework and the capacity for that regulation. Water resources management is key. I noted before that climate change is only exacerbating some of the issues with WASH access. And so water resources management is a really important component where we're looking at the allocation and management of resource abstraction, water quality, and we're looking for coordinated efforts here when we're looking across watersheds. And finally, the 9th building block, you'll hear different organizations include different numbers of building blocks. The first 8 that I've mentioned, you'll see throughout every WASH organization when they're talking about building blocks, but another key one that we've added here is the importance of learning and adaptation. So we really want to capture lessons learned and apply those to future work. And then we can adapt various building blocks in response to the learning and that has taken place. So you may be thinking, if we go to the next slide, system strengthening sounds really great in theory, but how is it actually relevant for the work we're doing? This seems really theoretical. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. So if we go to the next slide, the first point is that systems are everywhere. So we're often blind to these systems. We often don't think about this different systems surrounding us, but there's systems for education, health, transport, housing, you name it, there's a system, but we often see what they deliver, the final product. So getting on a bus to go to work, but we don't think about what it takes to deliver them. So for a bus to get to work, there needs to be a driver. There needs to be someone that will repair the bus when it breaks down. It drives on a road that somebody has built and maintained, and somebody has established a schedule for that bus. So that is a system, but we often don't think about the whole system. We just think about the end product. And it's the same for water, sanitation, and hygiene. There's a system in place, but we're often not thinking about all different aspects of it. And that blindness to the system means often that billions of dollars are wasted focusing on the most tangible aspect of our work. So when we're thinking about water and sanitation, that often means digging wells or building latrines, and not the emphasis on that entire interconnected system. Another reason why what we're going to talk about over the course of the next week is so important is because the building blocks that I just presented, those 9 building blocks, well, I presented them in the context of WASH. They're also critical for many other systems. So thinking about all the different systems that you may work in, you can think about how those building blocks would in fact feed into the systems. And I mentioned this before when I was talking about the building blocks, but water and sanitation are part of a larger political economy. They are part of a system of systems. WASH is connected to other systems like health, food security, nutrition, humanitarian assistance. So it's really important to understand the system in which we're working and how it connects to other systems. It's also important to note that if we can build systems at the same time as infrastructure and link these systems, then we can increase the sustainability of our work. And I'm just going to ask if everyone can please mute throughout the presentation. And then finally, we've seen an increased emphasis within the development sector and specifically by USAID on system strengthening. And so I just want to note, if we go to the next slide, that even USAID has developed the local systems framework where they talk about the 10 principles for engaging local systems. And this framework really places local systems at the center of all of USAID's efforts to promote sustainability. And it's focusing on, and it states that sustaining any development outcome depends on the contributions of multiple and interconnected actors, and that building the capacity of a single actor or strengthening a single relationship is insufficient. So if we think about just focusing on infrastructure, USAID has identified that as insufficient. And so we really want to think about the full system and how it's all interconnected. And we want to think about these 10 principles for engaging local systems. So here are those 10 principles. I won't go through all of them, but you can see them. There's things like mapping local systems, designing holistically, embedding flexibility, monitoring and evaluating, and what I said before, recognizing that there's always a system. It might not be the strongest system, but there's something there off of which we can build. So if we go to the next slide, you might think, okay, fine, you've stated that systems are important, but how do we really strengthen them in our context? So in preparation for this webinar and in preparation in the development of the course, we met with different organizations and many different countries, to talk about the context in which you all are working and to talk about some of the challenges you have found to date in system strengthening. And so what we often heard is that you're working in rural, fragile, or vulnerable contexts, and that a system strengthening approach could be difficult in some of those contexts. So if we go to the next slide, what we're introducing today and what you'll see throughout the course is that it's important to start where you're at. So even in fragile settings, as highlighted in the framework for local systems development, even in fragile settings, systems exist. And so it's important to understand the system and how it currently is functioning, no matter how well it is functioning, because that is what we're going to build off of. And so we should start by identifying entry points. That means assessing what of the 9 building blocks I presented before are working well in your context and what needs work. Because if we have a well-functioning building block, that can be a really good entry point to thinking about how we connect to another building block. So for example, if infrastructure is a really strong building block in your work, then we should think about how we can link it to finance to make sure that that infrastructure is maintained for years to come, or think about connecting it to other institutions. So thinking about key entry points is really important, because the last point on this slide is that we should start by applying components of system strengthening. It can't all be done at the same time. We can't go in and say all 9 building blocks need to be addressed immediately and focus on all of them. It's not going to work, especially in some of the contexts in which you all work. And so we should be thinking about what we can do incrementally to improve the whole system and not be overwhelmed by thinking about, oh my gosh, all of these 9 different building blocks we need to be addressed. Instead, we should be thinking about, yes, they all need to be addressed, but how can we start? What's the first thing we can start working on to really strengthen the entire system in which we're working? And so that's going to be a key throughout the course. We'll talk about this more. You'll see examples of system strengthening in fragile environments in the course as you work on it. And then it's something we'll talk about as well in our closing webinar, which will be in a little over a week. We'll talk about what you learned during the course and how you can start applying what you learned in your specific context. But before we get to that, if we go to the next slide, I want you all to take a few minutes. If you have pen and paper near you, you could write this down. If you want to pull up a Word document on your computer, I'm going to have a few questions for you for reflection before we go into another Mentimeter poll. But first, before we do that, I want us to thinking about the WASH system, thinking about those different actors and institutions that are in place and the different building blocks and factors. Where do you place yourself in the WASH system? In your work, where do you see yourself working? And what challenges do you see in the system in which you're working? And what are some of the building blocks these challenges are linked to? So I'm going to pause for just a minute or two for you to think through that. And I'm going to put these questions in the chat. You don't need to answer them here in the chat. This is more of a self-reflection of where you think you fit and what some of the challenges are in the system. And I'll let you think through those for just a few minutes before we move on to the next Mentimeter poll.
What was the last question?
Sure. So the last question was, what challenges do you see in the system? And to which of the 9 building blocks that I presented are the challenges linked? So the questions again, where do you place yourself in the WASH system? Who do you work with in the WASH system? What other actors? And what challenges do you see within the system? And what building blocks are those challenges related to? And if you don't have the answers at that time, that's okay. That's part of the reason we're taking this course, is to better understand the system in which we're working, to better identify
in the chat.
who. Sorry, you don't need to type it in the chat. This is just for self-reflection. But if you're unaware of who the actors are at this point, that's okay. This is part of this course is going to help you get there. So I'm going to ask Samantha if you can pull up the next Mentimeter for us, because we have a couple more questions for you all. All right, so thinking about the 9 building blocks that we presented, which building blocks are already incorporated in your program? So thinking about your specific work, which building blocks do you think your work is responding to? And the place to go to complete this is menti.com. And the code is 39466547. So it's the same, it is the same code and the same website that we used previously. So if you left that window open, great. But if not, it's menti.com 39466547. And so we already see some responses coming in, and I'll go over what those 9 building blocks are as people are entering and responding. There's policy and legislation, there's planning and budgeting, there's institutions, finance, infrastructure, regulation and accountability, monitoring, water resources management, learning and adaptation, and none, if you don't think the program that you're working on addresses any of these. So perhaps unsurprising is that infrastructure is taking the lead in the poll right now, but a close second, and now just pulled into first, is monitoring. So it's great to see that we're not just focusing on the development of infrastructure, but instead thinking about monitoring that infrastructure and the whole system in which it's working. Another close one is planning, which is really great. That's a critical component of sustainability, is having a plan for reaching full coverage of water and sanitation services. Learning and adaptation is also high up on this list, as is institutions. So really working to develop the institutions and connecting to existing institutions for the provision of water, sanitation, and hygiene services. But it's nice to see that across the board, you're working on all of these different building blocks, that there's not one that's really low, that for the most part, we're doing pretty well across all of these building blocks, which is great to see that all of us are working in a pretty interconnected WASH system. And also really great to see, because thinking about the course, a big part of the course, there's opportunities for you to connect with colleagues. So if you are looking at this and you think, well, I'm really high up on monitoring, I do a lot of monitoring work, but I'm not as comfortable with finance, it's great to see that others are working on that finance and the systems in which they work, and perhaps you'll be able to connect with them through the course to learn from your colleagues. So I'm just going to give it one more minute to see if anyone else is responding. It seems like the poll has calmed down a bit. So I think we can move on to the next question, which is thinking about your system and the building blocks that you just highlighted that you work with in your program. Which building blocks do you think are the weakest in your program? So thinking specifically about the work your program is doing, which building blocks do you think are not addressed in the work you're currently doing? So we have one response, and that's for policy and legislation. Looks like a lot are feeling like they don't have a lot of work with the policy and legislation. And that was something actually that we heard during the consultation sessions, that at times it can be difficult if you're working on the ground locally in a very specific context. You're not as connected to the national government where there is that work on policy and legislation. And so we, as in your individual work, perhaps you don't need to be focused on that, but you should be working with other organizations and actors in the system to focus on policy and legislation. So perhaps related is regulation and accountability. You all are feeling like that's perhaps something that you don't focus as much on. Let's see, it looks like finance is an area. And so the course itself is going to introduce all of these building blocks and talk about them. But it will be up to you following the course too to really dig into individual building blocks. And there are other courses on the WASH Systems Academy that focus on different components like advocacy, and different aspects of these building blocks, but the course will give you a really good introduction to the building blocks themselves. All right, I'm just going to give it one more minute while you all continue completing the poll. All right, so it seems like policy and legislation and regulation and accountability, they were the early on ones identified as being weak in your programs. And it looks like that has maintained with finance following, but it looks like across the board, we see that all of these building blocks are weak in some way. And so that we should be working to strengthen them. So now, if we can go back to the presentation, I mentioned that we did some consultation sessions in preparation for this call. And so I thought it would be helpful to hear from several of your colleagues about why they find system strengthening important in their context. So I'm first going to ask Gift, who works with WaterAid in Malawi, to present about 3 minutes on why he finds system strengthening so important in his context.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. Let me just try to run through a few of issues that we found from our R&I that relates to the system strengthening in Titukulane, a relief reserve that we're implementing in Malawi. So just allow me to share my screen, if I could do that in a few seconds. Right. I will not actually get through the background to Titukulane, but let me just go straight to issues that I feel connect well with the system strengthening and why this is important to Titukulane that we're implementing in Malawi. We'll start by looking at one of the key building blocks, the policy and policy guidelines. I think from our learning in the first year of Titukulane in Malawi, we find so many lapses within the policy and regulations and guidelines, and we've got more of the wash service delivery at community level that is regulated by some guidelines within the water community-based water management model, and we've learned that there are so many lapses within that Titukulane would have to focus on if we are to deliver, wash service, particularly with relation to safe water at community level. So that's an area which we found as a key entry point that we'll be actually engaging with in the system strengthening processes that we have. Around infrastructure, we've actually noted from our studies that there's a lot of lapses. A lot of the water supply systems are not functional at the moment, and there are so many of the water quality issues actually uncovered, and most of these are resulting from lack of adherence to quality standards in construction of the water points, as well as monitoring water quality standards within the communities, and that all is actually coming from lapses within compliance, and make sure that the players within the chain are actually complying to water quality management standards and construction. So Titukulene's work will really be looking at how do we fix the district and community level structures to strengthen oversight roles to ensure compliance within the construction as well as water quality, monitoring and management, parameters. The other bit is about planning. The planning bit is to do with the districts that we have around don't have the really clear planning documents, and that is actually impacting in terms of the investment that we need to make in terms of WASH as well as regulation. So we want to be speaking to that moving forward. Also issues to do with data management and reporting. I think within this sector, we have actually issues around that. So we will be actually talking to that in terms of how well do we actually plan for data management so that we can actually effectively report in terms of the indicators and performance of WASH within the sector. So all in all, what we are looking at planning is...
Sorry to interrupt. Could you put it in presentation mode, please, so that everyone can see the slides a little bit better?
Okay, is that okay? All right.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right, so we are also looking at, so how well do we actually manage data to make sure that we actually track performance within the WASH sector? What we actually note from the data at the moment is that there's no good alignment in terms of WASH indicators with what is actually supposed to happen in terms of reporting at national level. So we are looking at the whole process of joint sector review, which is actually a key monitoring process within the country. And when we get down to the districts, we don't see that well, outlined in terms of how that process needs to look like. So we will be focusing on that in terms of really building systems to make sure that we have good data collected, that managed, and then we report in accordance to the requirements, particularly within the joint sector review process, is a key national reporting structure. The plan is work will really be looking at how we support the alignment of the indicators within the sector, and also looking at how we do the connect with national level reporting. We have also seen lots of lapses in terms of WASH service delivery and operational maintenance. What we are seeing is low levels of resource allocation to WASH generally, but also to operational maintenance in the districts of focus, that's Mangochi and Zomba. And Tutuklani's work around this one is going to be really advocating for increased funding for WASH within the WASH sector, but also focusing on how do we make sure that the resources for WASH national level trickles down to the districts, and how do the districts allocate adequate budgets for WASH investments as well as operation and maintenance. I think in conclusion, I would say that in Tutuklani, we're looking at delivering WASH as not only fixing a tap and a toilet, which perhaps is the common feeling out there. For us to really deliver improved services around WASH, we will be talking more to strengthen systems around those 9 building blocks. I've just singled out a few because of limitation in terms of time, but we look at Tutuklani wanting to actually get into look at all the building blocks and those that are key to actually help us deliver improved WASH services. And of course, we'll be talking to issues of how can we make that one sustainable over time. So we will be supporting the sector to monitor and report improvements in terms of service levels, but also to make sure that we strengthen the processes and the systems over time. What we want to see from this proper course is to see how the course can actually give us the how to do it, and to make sure that we use the learning and the skills from here and help us to actually fix the systems to make sure that we improve service delivery within Mangochi and Zomba, where Tutuklani is actually focused to deliver improved WASH services. So in the shortest period of time that have been given, this is how I would actually rate the WASH system strengthening course and its relevance to Tutuklani, and we implement it as we implement it in Mangochi and Zomba districts of focus in Malawi. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Gift. I really appreciate that presentation and you talking us through the context that you're working in and the different building blocks. And I hope all of you can hear that and think about how it applies to your work as well. So next, I'll be asking Rizer from Bangladesh, who works with CARE, to present a bit on his experience with system strengthening.
Thanks, Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Sorry, I couldn't video on because the network problem. Just to mention, I don't have any PowerPoint presentation. Just to speak about our Sohardo 3 program in terms of WASH intervention. We have introduced the market-based water sanitation approaches. We have the trained water entrepreneur, and we have the latent producer in another technical project with ID. We call it Swirl project in 37 areas. So I think that system strengthening is very important for the sustainable water services and to improve the long-term operation and maintenance of the services. And also we have to improve the governance and accountability of the service provider. And we have to strengthen the environment into which water services and behaviors are introduced, so that they can continue to deliver the benefits to everyone. So we have to work together. That means together means we have to work with the government, other water sector stakeholders like private sectors and other civil society organizations to raise the voice of the poor or unheard, the poor and the marginalized communities, and we have to work together to achieve the sustainable development goals of the 6, and also we have to make accountable the government and their leadership so that they can show the exact good governance systems at all aspects. And also we have to it's very important in terms of the WASH allocation for the annual planning and budget for the government and also the NGO sector. That means if we just, for example, in our further three program, we do not give funding for the water and sanitation infrastructure. Rather, we are building capacity of the latrine and water entrepreneurs. So if the government, that means the DPH, Department of Public Health Engineering, and other government institution can support them, and also the other stakeholder can support, and also need the private sector to come forward, so that this system strengthening can be enhanced easily and we can achieve our desired goal, that means the sustainable development goal 6. Otherwise the poor will be remain as a last mile beneficiary, and we have to ensure their what's called the exact allocation of the water sanitation. That means the political economic is a most important challenge in our context. That means when we talk with the DPH, they are mentioning that they have some limitation to provide fund for the poor, because they have some allocation. They have to give certain allocation from the member of parliament. They have some allocation from the union parishad. So when we ask about the exact list of the poor, then said then it should be come from the bottom line approach. So so we have to work together to strengthen the system, so that they can change their mindset. And also the government always think about the infrastructure and to change the behavior of the people. As a NGO, the development organization, we have to work together. We have to supplement with the government. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much for talking about your context as well, and the importance of strengthening those connections with the government and the other actors. So now that we had an opportunity to hear from two of our colleagues about this work in very specific contexts, I'm going to ask all of you to think about this in your context. So shortly here, we're going to break you into groups, and we're going to ask you to respond to 2 questions in those groups. And I'm going to put them here for everyone. So the first is, what are the key challenges to implementing system strengthening in your context? And considering the building blocks, which do you think will be most difficult to address in your work? So I've just put them in the chat and they're here on the slide. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes once you get into the groups. We know it takes a little bit of time, and we're just randomly assigning these groups to respond to these questions. What are the key challenges to implementing system strengthening in your context? And considering the building blocks, which do you think will be most difficult to address in your work? So I'm going to break us into groups. You'll eventually be pushed right into a group. We're just randomly assigning it. We hope you can start by introducing yourselves briefly, and then talking about these 2 questions: the key challenges to implementing system strengthening in your context, and considering the building blocks, which do you think will be most difficult to address in your work? So we're going to break you out now. You'll have about 10 minutes to work on this work, and then we'll bring you back. We will bring you back into this large group, where we'll get into the last bit, which is going to be focused more on the logistics of the course. So looking forward to hearing about your discussions when you come back in about 10 minutes, and I'm creating those groups right now. Thank you. Participants, 100. 24 participants back. So thank you all for your conversations in the breakout groups. We're asking you if you have any main insights you would like to share to add them to the chat here. And I'm now going to hand it back over to Jessica to talk about the course and next steps coming up. So thank you all again for coming back after this breakout rooms.
Yeah, great. And you can keep on discussing and sharing your insights from the breakout rooms in the chat. The other course facilitators, we're going to be monitoring that as well. But I'm going to be taking you through to the course that what are the next steps after this webinar. So we've built a custom-made course for you on the WASH Systems Academy called WASH System Strengthening for USAID Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance Implementing Partners. So let me tell you a little bit more about this online course. Next slide, please. So we're going to combine an online training with these virtual sessions, a first session today and a closing session next week on the 29th of July. Next slide, please. And for this online learning, we're going to use the WASH Systems Academy, and you can follow the courses through your computer or through your phone as well. So please, you can connect to your phone or your computer. And in the course, you're going to be doing lots of different exercises. You're going to be hearing podcasts from all around the world of WASH experts talking about how they're using WASH system strengthening. You're going to watch animations, read short text. You connect a lot with all the other people that are going to be in this course, where you're going to share your insights and have discussions. You do exercises and quizzes. You collect badges as you progress through the course. You create your own materials on WASH system strengthening, because I saw somebody in the chat mentioning, how do we get these other actors on board in our country on WASH system strengthening? People are confused. So one of the points is as well in the course is that you create your own materials that you can then use to help discuss these type of issues with others. And at the end of the course, you're going to earn a digital certificate of completion that you can share on Facebook or LinkedIn to mark your achievement. And I saw that one person actually has already earned it. Next slide, please. So the course schedule. So you're going to be following an 8-hour basic course on WASH system strengthening, which is self-paced, self-guided. You can start this course from anytime, anywhere. The course is open to you. I'm going to be sharing all the details on how to enter this course in this webinar, but it's also in the information package that was shared with you. Please continue. So the course combines 3 different elements. We have this online course on the WASH Systems Academy, and the course is called WASH System Strengthening for USAID Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance Implementing Partners. We have these 2 webinars of 90 minutes, which this is the opening webinar, and then the last one next week. And we also have 8 hours of office support by the course facilitators. Yes, please, next slide. So what is this office support? So you're very welcome to join us during 4 time slots, and every time we've chosen the same time slot with the same Zoom meeting link. So you can join us tomorrow at 8:30 till 10:30 Eastern time zone, or 2:30 to 4 o'clock European time. You've been given a meeting invitation as well, so if you can join us for office hour support, if you have any questions, either on content or on any technical problems, just virtually walk in to our office to have a discussion, to ask any questions. You can do this tomorrow on Wednesday. You can do that this week on Friday as well. You're very welcome next week on Tuesday and on Wednesday as well to ask any questions or just to connect. So feel free to join our office hour support and virtually walk in. And this is completely voluntarily, of course. You can ask any questions. So the important thing to note is there are 4 blocks. Every time we'll use the same Zoom meeting links, which is part of the information package, part of the online course. You can find all the information there as well, and as well in the invitations that have been sent to you. And every time it's the same time slot. So try to make it as easy as possible to come and walk in our office. Next slide, please. So we have a very simple code of conduct that we hope that everybody can adhere to. to not judge the ideas of others. We're going to be asking, just like we did today. The course is also very interactive, so it's a lot about reflection and discussion. So in those reflection and discussions, please do not judge the ideas of others and be respectful of other points of view. As we say, there's many ways to Rome, and the idea is as well to explore these many ways. Let ideas flow, be imaginative and free will. You know, it's okay to build on ideas of others. That's how we all learn and build on each other. And there's not a right or wrong answer. Really the point is as well is to reflect and discuss what does this mean for me? What are the issues in my context? And how can we all together work towards universal and sustainable water, sanitation and hygiene services for all? Because that's, I think, the end, what connects us all. Next slide, please. So what are these next steps? So I saw that some of you have already started the online course. That, of course, is possible. If you haven't started yet, what do? So you go to www.washsystemsacademy.org. You see login or new account. You click new account. You click on new account. So that means you have to create your own account. You fill in your own email address, your name, and then an email is sent to confirm your account to the email address that you've indicated. So through the creating your own account, you will leave an email address. So the important point to note is that there's going to be a confirmation email sent to that email address where you click on that confirmation email and then you're into the Wash Systems Academy. And sometimes that email lands in your spam email box. So if you don't see it in that email inbox which you've indicated, then please look in your spam folder to just confirm that it's you accessing this account, and then you can start the course anytime, anywhere. The courses are self-paced, self-guided. You then, once you click the confirmation email, you're being taken to the Wash Systems Academy homepage. We have several courses, and we've custom built a course for you. So then you go to the category Courses for Partners, and you select this course, Wash System Strengthening for USAID BHA Implementing Partners. So once you're in the Academy, you go to Courses for Partners because we've custom made this course for you. And it's called Wash System Strengthening for USAID BHA Partners. And then it will ask you for a key, because this course is only accessible by the people in this course. And the key is WASH with capitals 2021. All this information is also in your information package that was also shared with you today. And if you have any issues, contact us through training@ircwash.org. That's our inbox where we continuously monitor and we can answer any of your questions. And of course, you always free to join any of the office hours as well. So to set up your account, go to www.washsystemsacademy.org, select new account, create an account, and a confirmation email will be sent to you. You confirm with that email, and then you go to the course Wash System Strengthening for USAID BHA Partners. You enter the key and you're good to go. The course is self-paced, self-guided. It's 6 different sessions. Each session takes about an hour and a half. So you're free to complete everything in one day. You can complete it over the course of the next week. So what are the next steps? Create your account on Academy, complete online sessions 1 to 6, which includes 2 tests, test 1 and 2. Test 2 with multiple choice questions. If you successfully complete that, you can download your certificate of completion. And please do this by the 29th of July when we meet again for the final webinar. So it's great if you are able to complete the online course by that time, so we can have really good discussions in that last webinar. And that webinar will really focus on application, because then you're more comfortable with this approach, and then we can share more ideas on, what does this mean for me? Where can I start? How can I apply this? So that's on the 29th of July. The course is open for you for the next couple of months. So if you don't complete by the 29th of July, you're still able to complete it after the 29th of July. And after the 29th of July, we're also going to send you a survey where we can ask about how did you like this. So if needed, join our office hours, and we really look forward to seeing you again and participate in the final webinar on the 29th of July. So I see the chat as well. If there's any questions, please reach out to training@ircwash.org, or post any questions in the chat at the moment. We still have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to be asking people for questions, and if you like, share some of your insights from the group work. So I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, so we're inviting you to be, part of the solution towards sustainable and universal wash services for everybody. I see a question on when can you start the course? You can start the course right now, but you can also choose to start tomorrow or the day after. It's a self-paced, self-guided course, so you can always join and start any time zone. We'll be storing these recordings of the webinar, of this webinar, last webinar there as well, together with the PowerPoint presentation, so you can access all the resources there as part of the course resources. And I see, and what's the key, please? So the key is WASH in capitals 2021. All this information is also in your information package that was shared with you. I see a question on any certificate. Yes, once you complete the course, so you go to the different course activities and you successfully complete test 1 and 2, you can download a digital certificate of completion. Let's see, I'm being sent through the sign-up process. Oh, and have you looked in the Marley Gibbons? If you have any problems with registering, have a look if you did you get the confirmation email. Have a look there, and if you still have any problems, please let us know and we can help you out as well. Because you have to confirm your account. So I think that's probably where, have a look if you've received that email. I see a question. Any other questions at the moment on next steps? Please let us know. Okay, but the confirmation email is not coming through. Please check your spam filter, your spam folder. And if that doesn't work, please let us know at training@ircwash.org, and we can look in the back end of the system to see if there's any problems and help you out. So if you have any problems with logging in, please email training@ircwash.org, and we can help you out. And it should take a couple of minutes to get the confirmation email. And if you don't receive it, please let us know, and then we can help you out, and also check your spam filter.
Jessica, sorry,
Yes.
there was a question
about
trying to know who was joining from different regions. So people from the same region might be able to connect. So we'll try to figure out a way to make that information known, since everyone registered and we know where people are participating from, to see if we can make those connections to people in the same country as well as within the same region.
Yeah, and as part of the Academy, when you create your account, you can also update your profile. So if you click on any name of any participant, you can read their profile, so you can also see where they're from, where they work from, and even have an individual chat if you like. So a good idea as well is to fill in to update your profile. It's also one of the activities in the course, which allows other people to also be able to connect with you better, and for you to connect with others. So there's also a chat in the course where you can chat with others, and you can read everybody's profile too. So indeed, we'll try to see if we can stimulate other ways for you to connect with people in your area. But through the chat and through the participants list, which is in the course too, you can also connect to anybody and read their profile and send even a personal chat if you wanted to. So we're starting to wrap up now. Any questions, please let us know. We're going to be staying online for a bit. And we look forward to seeing you, if you'd like, voluntarily in our office hour support, and for the webinar next week on the 29th of July. And yes, we'll be sharing the recording and the slides too.
Where is your office located, or is connected virtually?
I'm located in the Netherlands, but IRC staff are based everywhere. So we also have an office in the United States, where Ellen and Samantha are joining from today. And I know Laura is also joining from the American office. Brenda is joining from the Malawi office. So we're truly a global. But for me, it's this afternoon, and I'm based in the Netherlands.
Brenda's actually in Uganda.
Oh, Brenda's Uganda, sorry. And Gift, it was based in Malawi.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much from Bangladesh World Vision.
Okay, thank you. It was nice to have met you virtually, and we look forward to engaging more.
Yeah. Actually, we are interested, very much interested to participate in the training, all the sessions, as because I think having so many things to learn for us. So that will be implemented for Bangladesh. The people in Bangladesh will be benefited from the course, I think so. If we learn more, then it will be implemented. And finally, the community people will be benefited from this training also, I think.
Okay, that's our hope. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I am sure that we will benefit from this course, and we are implementing our program in the good way and to meet our beneficiaries and the donor regulations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We look forward to having more interactive discussions on the online platform.
Thank you, WASH Academy, personal dojo and Pro WASH as well for organizing this event, because as a WASH professional, even then it is not too late to organize this systemic course for the professionals, like WASH system strengthening approach. If you go for the SDG, every goal is related to the system strengthening. So that sorts of course, even though it is an online course, but it could be, I think so far I have learned from you people, so it could be more beneficial for a WASH professionals for designing the program from day one and the close, which is the more sustainable to the services, and then to advocate the government peoples how the every resources they are using for the community, for country development would be more useful and effective. So those who are attending this course, they will be the representative of this academy as well in this particular zone. So they are contributing, they will be able to contribute for their particular country's system strengthening and establishing the local WASH governance as well. Thank you very much from World Vision Bangladesh.
Thank you too, and great if you spread the word. The Academy also has free courses for anybody to enter as well. And as part of the course, you're also going to be creating your own materials to share on this this approach. So really nice to have you on board.
It would be great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep in touch to you people.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, our dear facilitators. This is John from Uganda. It's really, I'm really delighted to be part of this course. In fact, I've been waiting to know more about this building blocks. I'm sure it will really support me in my field as a growing WASH professional. And we shall always be really in touch. I think, thanks.
Great, thank you so much.
Hello, Jessica. We really thank you. This is Joseph from Uganda Sanitation for Health in Uganda. It's really very exciting to see that we are talking about market-based sanitation, and that's the approach we are implementing in Uganda where USHA works. So I think there's a lot we need to share in this training course. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. So maybe we need to pull up the slide one more time of how to create your own account for those still left in this room trying to sign up to. And here are the instructions. The instructions are also in your information package that was sent to you. Because I still see we have 83 people and I see somebody's hand is raised.
Yeah, I just want to say my name is George. I'm coming from Kenya and I work with Safe Water and AIDS project, that is SWAP. And I think the meeting is very healthy, and I'm looking forward for the to do the course, and hopefully it will be very beneficial for us who are working in the community. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing, and look forward to meeting you further. So any questions, please, you know, the chat's still open. So the next steps are to create your account on the WASH Systems Academy, confirm with the confirmation email, and start the online course of 8 hours.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, such course is very useful, and I wish WASH cluster of Iraq, I'm from Iraq, of IOM, to try to adapt and digest this content, and also shifting the theory to implementation. And thank you so much. That's a very important point, to shifting the theory to implementation, and also adapting and digesting the material, and we will try to communicate WASH cluster in order to updating them according to your content and strengthening the system and reflecting to our context, with the contextualizing the materials.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this as well. So we're going to be closing the meeting in a few seconds. If there's anybody wishing to add any questions, please contact us to training@icwash.org. If there's anything, join our office hour support. All information is in the information package as well. I want to thank you all for your active participation today and for having an open mind and sharing your points of view. We really look forward to engaging with you further and seeing you as well. So I'm going to say thank you from here, from the Netherlands, and I hope to see you soon again in the office hour support or on the online course. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.